This government will always ensure that Canadians' privacy is protected.
2018 will be remembered for many things, but perhaps one of the biggest stories was constant data breaches and your own personal information being compromised.
A massive cyber attack affecting nearly 50 million Facebook users.
Hackers stealing everything from addresses to dates of birth to passport numbers.
So what can we look forward to in 2019? Well, who better to talk to than one of the world's foremost privacy experts, Dr. Ann Cavoukian, who runs the Privacy by Design Center of Excellence. And this has been something that we have talked about a lot. You've been writing about for years and sounding the alarm on. We're going into a federal election in 2019. What do you see some of the privacy concerns that Canadians should be thinking about?
I think one of the issues that they should be concerned about is the fact then that when the Federal Privacy Commissioner went to our Prime Minister, Mr. Trudeau, and said political parties should fall under privacy legislation, for goodness sakes. It's been a long time coming. Would you bring them under the Privacy Act? What did he say? He said no.
We fundamentally believe in the strong work that the Privacy Commissioner does to protect Canadians' privacy.
I find that appalling. These are some of the things I think individuals in this country have to be concerned about and bring this up at election time.
It's one of those things that we don't even think about. Like, we want to donate to a political party, you give your email address, you give your phone number, you give all of this information so freely and readily. I don't think people on the other end are thinking, Anne, that hang on a second, this could be collected for something else and potentially sold.
Absolutely.
And that's what the Privacy Commissioner was saying,
exactly,
that should be protected.
Because there's no control on the use of your data by political parties. That's exactly it.
Let's talk about another big story that emerged in 2018, but is still going to be ongoing in 2019. And that, of course, was the federal government and the banks asking for our personal data and collecting that. I know poll after poll had shown Canadians were outraged by this, upset by it.
Mr. Speaker, it's not about what the Prime Minister wants to do with this information. It's about the fact that he doesn't have a right to take it in the first place.
You know, we have a challenge in the banking system. We have only so many options. How did you react when you heard that story? And is there any good news for consumers on the horizon?
There is good news, but to start at the beginning, I was appalled, as you might imagine, as was the great majority of Canadians who object to having their most sensitive financial data collected by Statistics Canada. Who is intending on using that data in a variety of purposes?
Line by line, financial transactions linked to individual social insurance numbers. He's not protecting Canadians' privacy, Mr. Speaker. He's violating the Canadians' rights to privacy.
So I was outraged. Everybody was outraged. I can't tell you the number of media interviews I did on it. The good news is the banks put their foot down and said, whoa, we're not going to do anything right now. Just because you can compel us to produce this information, we're not going to do it. Finally, Stats Canada backed up and they said, okay, we're going to put this on hold right now. It's just a pilot project. We'll revisit it next year. But that's not good enough for me, because saying we're going to revisit it next year when things quiet down, it might allow Stats Canada to collect this information. The good news is, and you're going to have to wait till next year, early next year to get it, is one of the leading banks is partnering with me to truly stand up to all of this and say, no, you do not get my customers' sensitive financial information without their notice or consent. We're not doing it.
Well, we certainly
stay tuned.
We look forward to having you back, to being one of the biggest champions of our privacy in this country, frankly, around the world. I want to ask you one other significant thing that is also emerging for 2019, the notion of smart cities. Here in Toronto, we've heard Google Sidewalk Labs. You recently left the board of Sidewalk Labs. Perhaps give us a little sense of what it was they were trying to accomplish and why you left.
You see, with smart cities, you have no choice as to what information is collected about you, because all the technologies are on 24/7. The sensors are going to be collecting your information all the time. So people don't have a chance to consent or object to the collection of their personal information. So I said, flat out, all the data collected, let's say by a sensor, at the time it's collected, at source, must be de-identified, anonymized. Then feel free to use the data, but it won't be linked to any personally identifiable individuals. That was my firm stand. And when, at the last meeting, I noticed that that was not going to be the case, I just felt I had no choice but to offer my resignation. It was just simply no other way, because this is the beginning of a smart city here in Toronto. I want it to be a smart city of privacy, not a smart city of surveillance, as has been the case all around the world. So I am optimistic that Waterfront Toronto, who I've been working with, they've been great, They're going to lay down the law to all partners involved and say you must de-identify data at source, full stop.
Well, we certainly know the surveillance world has their eye on us, but Ann Cavoukian has their eye on them for us. Log on to Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.